I just minimized myself and I stayed quiet and I stayed to myself. And I didn't realize how detrimental that was to just like my overall internal growth and self-esteem. But as I grew older, I realized that like, girl, you're her. Like you're her. You need to embrace where you're from. You love where you're from. You've always loved where you're from.
Gloria George, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to be able to chat. For those who don't know, Gloria is a content creator among many other things, but she has millions of followers across social media platforms. You have probably seen her videos, and your whole goal, I mean, as far as I know, and I'm excited to hear you talk about it, is really to encourage a lot of beauty companies to promote more shade inclusivity, because
Right.
a lot of beauty companies have not been doing a good job. They talk the talk,
Mhm.
but they don't walk the walk.
Exactly.
And you've done such a beautiful job at bringing to light a really important issue for a lot of people. So I'm excited to chat. Is there anything I missed? What else do you have going on right now?
I it's summertime, so I have two dogs outside of my beauty. I'm literally just hanging out with my dogs. We are
I love
going
that.
on walks, hot girl walks here and there. I may be a beauty TikToker and love makeup, but I also love running and anything outdoors.
Oh,
So that's what I've been doing this summer.
how fun. And you're based
Yes.
in Austin, right?
Yes, I am. It's amazing. It's
Uh,
hot, but it's amazing.
I went there for the first time this past year, and it was the coolest city in the entire world.
Yeah, it is. There's so many cool people, so much cool culture. It's just like, come to ATX, guys. It's like a little Tennessee, a little Nashville, but we love her.
I second that, and I have never eaten better food. Those tacos I had there, I still dream about them.
So good. I literally,
They're
the
so good.
tacos in Texas.
Oh,
Yes.
you can't beat it. You can't beat it.
Yes. You can't.
Um, so tell us a little bit about how you started, like what prompted you to be like, I'm gonna create videos on how these companies aren't really shade inclusive.
Yeah, so I actually entered my like freshman year of college and it's your first year of college, you want to be outside with your friends. I also lived in the dorms, so we want to get ready together, do the whole vibe. And I
Yeah.
realized like my friends would like do full beats, like full faces. And I always knew growing up that like makeup was never really fully inclusive. Like I've walked into stores and department stores like CVS, Walgreens, all of like the little stores and try to find my shade and it was just like not happening. So I wasn't really like crazy about makeup, even though I did watch like some YouTube makeup creators. But once I hit that freshman year and we were going outside and having fun, I was like, I kind of want to experiment. So at the time I was working two jobs, two horrible jobs. And I finally saved up enough money to walk into an Ulta and see what I had. And I wanted to see if the selection was better than just like the Walmart, Walgreens selection, your regular
Yeah.
drugstore selection. And although it was a little better, it was still just like really bad. Like it was just really bad. And it was also I was seeing that not only was it not accessible, but they would market it as, oh, there might be darker shades, but you can only get them online, or you have to order them online, right? So you couldn't even swatch the shades in store. So not only were they also not making the shades, but they also just weren't accessible at all. And that's when I was like, girl, the girls really need to get together because there's just no way. Like there's actually no way. Um and I think my first ever video was trying the Fenty Matchstick. That was like one of the first products I bought in Ulta. And that was like my first viral video. And it was up from there. And I was like, yeah, I have to keep doing this because there's such a large community of dark skinned women that literally cannot find their shades. So it was, although bittersweet, because it's like, it's not fun not being able to find your shades and not
Yeah.
having them carry your shades. It's nice to know that there's community in that. And there are so many women that also have the same experience that we can like talk about these things about. And so yeah, I just got on camera and I was like, hey guys, this is the darkest shade and it is not great. That's what happened.
I mean, I just find that incredible. I mean, social media is hard in a lot of ways, and I have a complicated relationship with it, I feel like. But then I hear about creators like you, and I'm like, that is the beauty of social. Like, when
Yeah,
people can bring to light these issues where clearly a lot of other people were feeling the way you were because you have like almost
right,
2 million TikTok followers. Like, this is not just a you thing. And yet,
right.
it took you having a voice and sharing that voice to be able to make everyone else realize, oh, I'm not alone in this. I
Right.
just find that incredible.
It is honestly like one of the most, like one of my biggest joys for sure. I never thought in a million years that this would be possible. And I also never thought that I would be able to connect with so many, like, not just dark skinned women, but South Sudanese women. Like to know
Yeah.
that like y'all see me, we see each other. Like it is just so bittersweet because I remember the younger version of me. I wish there were more South Sudanese beauty creators at the top that I saw watching growing up, and there weren't. So now to see that I'm one of them and that there are girls that look like me that come from the same place that I do, it's just like, girl, you really did that. It's like, you really did that.
No. No, I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine how proud you feel. Have there been like particularly beautiful moments in your journey so far? Like maybe a story of like how you impacted someone or things that have stood out of like a moment where you're just like, wow, this is incredible that I'm getting to have this effect on people.
Yes. I actually it was like my first ever like beauty event. I was a part of the 2023 Sephora squad. And I met Danessa Myricks. It was They flew us out to LA and we met Danessa Myricks, and I like her biggest fan. Like I love her so much. I follow her work. Like she's one of the only like makeup artists that actually does makeup on people that have darker complexions. Like you can go to the Instagram and you
Yeah.
can actually visually see it. So that was really big for me. But when I had met her and she was like, I know who you are, like, I love your videos, my daughter watches your videos, like, that internally to me was like, oh my gosh, like, not an icon knowing who I am. It was full circle. It was full circle because it was like, I wear your products. I love who you are. I love what you do for dark skinned women in beauty. I love the impact that you have made as a Black woman in beauty and as a CEO. And it's just like, wow, like I can't even believe it. Janessa knows who I am, let alone that her daughter knows who I am. That was like huge for me.
That is, I mean, I can't imagine. I feel like I would be just like starstruck and so flattered and but I mean, you worked hard for
Literally.
that. Like
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely
you're
like it makes my heart warm. I'm just like, let me not explode right now.
Today's episode is brought to you by Just Ingredients. Just Ingredients is a company that practices what they preach. They offer a variety of health and wellness products without any added sweeteners, sugars, or additives, just real ingredients. I started following their founder, Carolyn, a couple of years ago because I was so inspired by her story of how she healed her mental health through changing the way that she ate and the things that she used. And she founded the company to allow other people to do the same. So I am a huge fan of their protein powder, of their pre workout, of their electrolytes. They're really amazing products. And the happy news is that they never offer really any discounts and have like one sale a year, but they are offering a discount to our lucky listeners. So if you want to try the products for yourself, use code QBC15 for 15% off your order at justingredients.us. Again, that's code QBC15 for 15% off your order at justingredients.us. Thank you so much to Just Ingredients for sponsoring. Have there been a lot of like personal experiences too? Like I'm sure you get hundreds of messages every day of people who are
Yeah.
like, "Thank you for bringing this to light."
Yes, I specifically South Pseudo woman. I have so many South Pseudo girls that are in my DMs, or they're like, oh my God,
Mm,
like to see someone that looks like us at the top in beauty doing the things, it makes me feel like I can also do those things as well. And that's just like it's such a big thing for me because, the South Sudanese community has gone through so much. And so to see that there are young girls that watch me and that inspire to be like me and just exist unapologetically for themselves, it makes my heart warm. And I wish that my younger self had that. So it's also even just sweeter because it's like, girl,
yeah.
you're her. So
No, truly. That's so wonderful. I would love to know the question of the show. What's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
I think the best advice that I've ever gotten was probably from my sister. It was when I first started creating the content and a lot of my videos started going really viral and picking up traction. And of course, with that, of course, comes a lot of good comments, but there was also a lot of hateful comments and colorist and racist comments. And that really did like make my spirit just like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, this is just really hard because I've already experienced a lifetime of it. And now I'm experiencing it by the masses because I'm so hyper visible. I had a conversation with my sister and I was just like really down in the dumps. And she was just like, you know what you need to do? You just need to exist unapologetically for yourself. And hearing that was one thing, but doing it is a completely other thing. And
Yeah.
what does that actually mean to exist unapologetically for yourself? And for a really long time, I didn't know. I was like, girl, I don't even know where to begin to do that. It's just like, where do I even start? And it took a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of healing. And now I'm just kind of like, you know what? You could take me as I am, but I said what I said and I meant it. And that's literally just the gist of it. You have to exist to the point where there is nothing anybody can tell you that is gonna change you or change your path or change what you are set out to do. And in the world of inclusivity, the whole goal of this, of why I do the darkest shade videos, is for tangible change. Like, makeup girls deserve products. Dark skinned girls deserve products. We deserve to be seen. We deserve to be not only just seen and have products made for us, but included in all of the background stuff in a makeup brand. And yeah, I think that's just like number one. Exist unapologetically for your Black self. Okay, just do it,
I love
babes.
it. I love it. I absolutely love that.
Yeah,
How have you, I mean, like you said, it's so much easier sometimes though to say like I'm unapologetically myself than to actually do it, and especially when you're getting such horrible like bullying and criticism online. Are there
yeah.
certain things that you feel like, certain tools that you've maybe adapted over the years as you've been online and gotten these messages to help you like cope with all of that hate?
Yeah, so first off, I like a lot of my comments, I have like censored so many of the comments that I like constantly see that are hateful. Like I'll censor some words just so like I don't even you can't even comment it to begin with because it's just like this is my page, you're not gonna harass me.
Yeah.
And also just like girl, block. And one thing about
Yeah.
me, block, because at the end of the day, you have to remember that this is your piece, this is your platform, and if you know that what you're sharing is truthful and honest, then that is your experience and nobody can tell you different. And I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of the internet has gotten very used to tone policing dark skinned women's experiences and also just like invalidating and dismissing our experiences. And I just nip it at the butt. Like once I see it, it's a nipped, blocked. So you
Yeah,
really just have to
honestly.
stand firm and set your boundaries and call it that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I feel like people are like, well, I want my page to be an open place and like I want all comments to be visible. And it's like at a certain point, it's just not helpful to anyone to allow those people to say such disgusting
Right.
things.
Exactly. And for me, it's definitely bigger picture. I know that there are so many younger South Sudanese girls watching me and also reading my comments. And
Yeah.
I feel hurtful, like it hurts me reading them, so I can't even imagine what it feels like to them reading them, knowing that they have the same skin color as me. So I nip it in the bud. I'll block
Yeah.
you, I'll delete the comment, and I leave it at that because at the end of the day, this is way bigger than me, and this is way bigger than just me swatching a shade. Like, and I think that's not what a lot of people don't understand, that but inclusivity is a problem in all industries across the board, not even just beauty. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that's very wise advice. Do you
Yes.
have a piece of worst advice or maybe like a quote that you hate or just really dislike? I don't like saying hate on the podcast, but that
Mhm.
you really dislike it, or like a mantra that just like never rang true to you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like the worst piece of advice I've gotten is to just do less of the darkest shade videos because I've gotten like so many hate comments and sometimes it gets to me and like I'll talk about it with people here and there and they're just like, just do less of the darkest shade videos. Like do something a little different, teeter your content or just like snip it and like leave a little bit of your personality out there so you're just showing the product like, oh, this is the darkest shade. What do you guys think? And leave it at that. And I feel like for a little bit I did do that, but it also just like took so much fun out of creating content for me. Like I
Yeah.
was just watching the shade, but there was no opinions. I was like, you see it? What do you think, babe? Because I already know what I think, but obviously my opinions make the internet mad. So literally like I was just that's what I was doing for a really long time. And I really had to sit down with myself and I was like, is this even fun for you anymore? Are you actually enjoying doing this? And once I really was like, no, I'm not enjoying doing this anymore, I was like, you know what? I need to do exactly what my sister told me to do, exist unapologetically for myself, create the videos how I want to create it, stop allowing people to control your narrative and tone police you, and say it how it is. Say it how it is. If that's your truth, that's your truth. And once I started to live by that and that only, I think that's when I really saw the pivot in my content and the pivot in my growth.
it's so fascinating to me because I couldn't agree more with what you said. And so many content creators that I interview on this show kind of say a similar thing where like we all have gotten to this point where it's either like abandon yourself for the followers and for the views and to be liked by everyone, or just like keep being true to yourself and come
Right.
what may. And it
Right.
seems like the real success is found though in like just staying true to yourself, letting it
Hmm.
ride. Maybe you lose some followers, but the people will always like come back and be drawn to you at some
Right.
point.
Exactly. And like your personality can take you so far. And I think
Yeah.
that's really what sets me apart from like a lot of the other beauty creators is that I don't care. I will say how it is. If it doesn't work, if it's ashy, if it's the darkest shade and it shouldn't be the darkest shade, you will definitely hear from me. And I feel like it's just way bigger than me for me to be silent. So at the end of the day, I think you just need to use your voice. That is the whole point of having a platform. And if you're not going to use your voice with a platform of millions of people, then do you really even deserve that platform? You know, like, do you
Yeah.
really even deserve it? So that is definitely a thought to sit on that I had to sit on for a little bit. And once I really was just like, girl, just do you, just have fun with it. Just try the products. Why can't you try all the other products that all the other beauty girls are trying? You know, and for me it was really like, oh, I know it's not going to work for me. I don't even want to waste my time in trying it, but also I know that there are so many dark skinned girls that would probably go out and buy those products from those other beauty creators because they saw it on another creator, you know.
Yeah.
So for me it's just like, girl, do your thing, talk your shit, and live your life.
There's the quote of the show. I love it.
Yes, literally.
I love it. Uh, do you have other times in your life, maybe aside from your career now as a content creator, but just throughout your life, you've talked about how special it is for you to be South Sudanese and to have those roots where maybe you've also felt like you had to lean into being unapologetically yourself, even when it felt uncomfortable?
You know, I feel like South Sudanese people are some of the darkest people in the world. I have one of like the darkest complexions that most people see. Like most people don't see a complexion as dark as mine on a daily basis, right? So I feel like anytime I walk into a room, that is actually the first thing people see is like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful and she's dark, you know? And being South Sudanese has always been such a huge part of my identity. I grew up in the Midwest, and girl, the Midwest was definitely it was definitely a battle. It was very intense. It was just very not a vibe. And it for a really long time I felt like I had to minimize myself or make myself look small because I just didn't want the heat. I didn't want to I feel like people were going to make fun of me regardless, but they would have made fun of me more if I spoke, if that made sense. That's how I
Hmm.
felt whenever I was younger. So I just minimized myself and I stayed quiet and I stayed to myself. And I didn't realize how detrimental that was to just like my overall internal growth and self esteem. But as I grew older, I realized that, like, girl, you're her, like you're her. You need to embrace where you're from. You love where you're from. You've always loved where you're from. Like, sure, you might, and I feel like it wasn't even that I was being quiet because I didn't want the smoke. I think I was just being quiet because it was just like, y'all are actually being horrible to me over something I can't control, and that makes you a worse person than me. So I don't even need to say anything to you because God's gonna handle you on your own, you know. So that's where
100%.
that's where I was at. So yeah, I think that my identity and being from South Sudan has definitely been one of the biggest things for me. It's always going to be one of the biggest things for me. It's the reason why I'm here today. My skin color and like making the darkest shade videos. It's always going to be something that I hold so close to me, and it's something that nobody can take from me. And it took me such a long time to realize that I don't have to make myself look small. You're her. Love where you're from, embrace where you're from, and that's that.
I love that. I was
Yeah.
going to ask a follow up question of what you would tell that younger self who now having the confidence that you do and having the platform that you do because of those very things that you were insecure about.
Yeah.
What would you say to her? It might be what you just said, you're her, but is there anything else that you would tell that younger self now that you are who you are?
Yeah. Probably just love your skin color. Like love your skin color, show it off. Don't let anybody make you feel small. Don't let anybody make you feel like your skin color is the problem, because it's not that your skin color, it's the problem. It's that that person is a bigoted problem. It's not you, okay? So I think that's what I would tell myself. I feel like so many dark skinned girls just need to hear it. You're beautiful. Like you're just beautiful. Like you deserve to be here just as much as everybody else. And don't let anybody ever dim your light, especially a light that obviously was given to you for an absolute reason. Like God really cooked whenever he made dark skinned women. He was like, sprinkle, sprinkle, like, melanin. And we love it. Come on.
Absolutely. That's
Exactly. So,
beautiful.
yes.
I love all of that.
Yes.
I do you we also love quotes around here. We're a quote following. Do you have a favorite quote of yours or a favorite again, mantra, affirmation, something that has always come to mind?
For me, yeah, I actually have it tattooed on me too. It's a
Ah,
quote by
we
Maya
love that.
Angelou. Yes, it's just, and still I rise. And it's basically just saying, despite everything that you've been through, despite all the trials and tribulations that you've gone through, you are so much stronger than you think. And at the end of it, you will still rise and you will still become something greater than you would have ever expected. Um, and that is something that I literally like wake up every morning and I read my comments. I like go through my social media and sometimes it's a really bad day and I get really ugly comments. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, but still I rise. Okay, still I rise. I'm still doing the thing. And at the end of the day, I just have to keep going and everything is just going to work and fall into place. So,
Maya Angelou doesn't miss. I love,
ever.
I mean, I think that quote's part of a poem, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And every time I read that poem, I'm just like, you can't help but feel empowered. That's such a great tattoo
Yeah.
because it really is just like that could be like I rise above like hatred and commentary, but also just like above any trial in your life, which
Right.
we all have. Has
Right.
there been like a particular maybe trial in your life that you have repeated that very quote to yourself as you've been going through it?
You know, girl, whew, I'm a refugee. So, whenever we came to the States, the effects of displacement after the fact, after you've already came to the States, whenever we moved to the Midwest, my parents didn't know English, not a lick of it. It was also where we lived was also just like a really bad place. It was government housing. It was not a good place at all. Education system's horrible. There was gang violence, the whole nine. And that's where we were at in the moment. Even just our living situations were horrible. We were on the brink of homelessness actually so many times. And for me, I didn't see light at the end of that tunnel. I didn't see any type of light at the end of the tunnel because it was just like there's already a cultural like indifference there. Like my parents don't speak a lick of English. We are in America. Like I'm going to school, but like, girl, I'm barely understanding anything. Like I'm in
Oh my
ESL.
gosh.
I'm like, I was in ESL for years trying to learn English, and it was just like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Like I ever had to do, and thank God, whenever we came to the US, I was younger. But I still remember everything because so much of it was traumatic. And so it was really much so it was really just like, girl, you need to and up you need to get up and still you will rise no matter what you go through, no matter how many times the light gets cut off, no matter how many times you don't have water in the house, like you're gonna rise. It'll be okay. You will be okay. And I had to constantly remind myself of that. So to see myself here and now is so full circle, like so full circle, because I genuinely thought that I was not gonna make it. For a really long time, I thought I was gonna make it. I thought that I would be just another statistic. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow because if we look at like the rates of refugees and like how well they do after they come to where they're wherever they're staying, like their sanctuary, it's just like not the rates of it of like them being successful is just not right at all, and it's because we don't have the resources. They don't give us the resources, so it's just like we're
Yeah.
stuck, and we're stuck for a really long time. Our parents are struggling. I feel like even growing up, just like seeing my mom having to work like 3 4 jobs at a time and my dad having to work 3 4 jobs at a time taking care of literally five of us was absolutely insane. And then at that, they don't speak English, like they don't speak
Oh
English,
my
they don't have
gosh.
degrees. Like the jobs that they were working were not fun. It was a life full of struggle, and it was a constant every day, like your strength. this is a test of strength. And I really feel like right now, this life that I have created for myself and curated for myself, I really feel like it's like God being like, you know what, I'm so sorry for the first half of your life. Here are some fruits, you know? So I think that that quote has always just like really rung heavy with me because I feel like I've been a fighter my whole life. I've had to fight. So it's just like, there's nothing that you can tell me. And there's absolutely nothing that you could tell me. I've seen it all. I've seen the struggle of struggle. I've been in the struggle of struggle. And so, yeah, and still I rose. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I mean, I knew a little bit about your background. I did not know that much, and so asking that question, I was like, yeah, like you got a bad grade on a test and really rose above it. That is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, the
Yeah.
things that you have risen above are things that a lot of people will never have to deal with or confront in their entire lives. Do you still just wake up in the morning and kind of think like, is this like
Yeah.
my real life?
No, literally. There are so many times where I wake up in the morning, I'm like, wow, like I have AC. Like like I know for some people that's like what? Like but for me it's like, dude, you have AC. Growing up there were so many times where like my mom couldn't make the ends meet. My parents couldn't make the ends meet and we would be out without electricity, without water, without heat. And we lived in Kansas City, Missouri. It literally snowed all the time. Like
Yeah.
snowed
Oh
all the time,
gosh.
inches, and we had no heat. So we were freezing, we were hungry. It was like the worst of worst, but my parents were trying their absolutely like their absolute best with what they had and what they were given and the resources that they were given. And I thank God that my mom didn't give up because if she gave up, I probably would have gave up too, girl. So it's just like, like there are so many layers and complexities there that I feel like a lot of people don't actually put into perspective. Like being a refugee and like being displaced is one thing. Like you're forced to leave your country, but then you're thrown into another country where you absolutely don't know what the hell is going on. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, like you have children. And for my mom, that was her reality. She has 5 children, and she doesn't speak a lick
Oh
of
my
English. It was
gosh.
one of the hardest things that it was hard for me, but I know it was so much harder for my parents to
Yeah.
see that and to see us struggle. And then to also where we lived in the Midwest, it was just like I was around a lot of white people. There were never people that looked like me. And so the rampant colorism and racism was like the worst that I have ever experienced. I didn't have friends. Like it was just really bad. It was really bad all around. And then I also didn't speak the best of English. So it was also just like, like you're not from here. And so it was rough. And then we were also just like poor. So obviously I didn't have, the nicest shoes or like the nicest clothes. And with that comes a lot of hate. And it was also just like I felt like I almost couldn't just be myself. I felt like I almost couldn't just exist how I wanted to. But when I went home, even though the situation was bad at home, I felt safe there. I felt comfortable there because I could just live. I didn't have to speak English all the time. I could just like live, talk to my family in our language, and just it was what it was. So for me, it's always gonna. I look back at those times and I'm just like, wow, like you're waking up and you have this giant roof over your head. Like you are beyond blessed, and I just can't even. I can't take it for granted at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think growing up in that circumstance puts like the word gratitude and the whole concept of that in a whole new light. Things that I think a lot of us would just take total advantage of. I
Hmm.
think you notice. And in a lot of ways, I think that's like the beauty that comes through real struggle is things that I don't notice that are beautiful, incredible blessings are things that maybe you
Right.
do notice that make life beautiful.
No, literally. And it's just like the smallest things for me. I'm like, thank God for some light, like, and I know for some people that's like, that's crazy to hear, but like, that was
Yeah.
such a big part of our life. Like, it was just not a good time for us. So to even see me come this far, I like, I never thought it would happen. I never thought it would
Yeah.
be.
That's incredible. Do you to close us out, do you have a piece of advice or words of wisdom that you would share with someone who has similarly, maybe not exactly your story, but in a similar way, had a tough upbringing? Maybe they've dealt with harassment or bullying. Maybe even their upbringing was tough. Maybe now it's tough. Maybe they're having a tough young adult life. Someone
Right.
just hurting right now. What would you
Mm.
say to them?
You know, uh, I wish there was something that I could say that would make the situation better, but at the end of the day, the situation and the circumstance is just what that is, just that. It is just a circumstance that you're in at that time. It is a chapter of your book, it is not your whole book. Do not allow for your circumstances to, deter you from your path. There is an end goal here. And if you can actually put your head to it, and if you can tunnel vision yourself to it, you can do anything. And yes, it'll be hard. And yes, it's going to be harder for you than the average person. But I don't think God would give you anything that you could not handle. And for a really long time, I thought that I was not going to survive that. I thought I was like, girl, like, this is not life. Like, this could not be life. And if this is life, I don't want any parts of it. But your circumstances do not, they just do not decide how far you get in life. And I feel like that is something that I wish I would have heard a long time ago. Um, I feel like I would have probably been a little bit of a happier child. But when you're actually in that circumstance and when you're actually going through those things, that is not a thought that you have that you're going to make it out. Because whenever I was in those circumstances, I didn't feel like I was going to make it out until I did. And it felt like it was out of nowhere. And it felt like it was like the most random thing ever. But when I did, the weight that was lifted off of my shoulders, I was just like, finally, a girl could breathe, like a girl
Yeah.
could take a breath. So I would just say that, let your circumstances know where you come from, remember where you come from, but do not let your circumstances define what you do and how you go about living your life.
That
Yeah.
is more beautiful than anything I could have added to it. So I'm not going to add to it. Thank you so much, Gloria. This
Thank
was
you.
a wonderful chat. You are clearly very talented and a beautiful makeup artist, but I'm glad that we just got to see so much more of what's under the makeup as well. So thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
joining us.
much. Thank you for having
Um,
me.
we want everyone to be able to know where they can go to continue to follow along with you, with your work, where handles, websites, give us everything.
Yes. So across all my platforms, it's just at Gloria, my first name, across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you guys will see me every day.
I love it. Everyone
Yeah.
go follow along. Clearly, she will bring light to your day as she has to this conversation. So,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for joining us. To everyone watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. Let us know what you think of the episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.